So how do, in your experience, how do brands think right now about, so I guess like Procter & Gamble, aren't they the biggest, don't they have the biggest ad budget, or I don't know, I think they're certainly huge, right?
Yeah, they're number one or number two every year.
Like, so for example, I read some article where they were saying that they thought they expected to spend, 3 times as much money next year on Facebook, but we're still sort of thought of things like Twitter as experimental. Is that your impression? I mean, like, they're still, like, they haven't figured that out. Like, whereas Facebook, they feel like there's maybe ROI, like proven ROI.
Facebook has proven the ability to sustain a community around ideas and brands, unlike any other platform. So when you publish to a business page, most of our clients, when they publish, they get everywhere from dozens to thousands, tens of thousands of comments, likes, shares. When the same brand publishes to their website, they're lucky if 100 people see it. Okay, so in a world where it's about reach and frequency, it's about kind of reaching as many people as possible, as many times as possible. Those numbers work on Facebook. So it's really, and I think what Facebook did for, what Google did to newspapers, Facebook is starting to do to magazines. When you look at kind of, at one point, the magazine classified ad business was a multi-billion, $6-7 billion business. It's now a $600 million business because people could find stuff through Google, whereas Facebook, a lot of the time we used to spend leaning back and reading magazines and using other media is now kind of with your friends, browsing content that they're sharing or actually talking to them. And so I think Facebook is a business that hasn't even started monetizing, which is silly given I hear they're going to do, from the press and from TechCrunch and others, $5 billion this year, $4 billion. But what is the business?
That's why I always think it's ludicrous when people say, oh, they're trading at, $100 billion is 20 times revenues, which is absurd, but they don't realize that it's true. Facebook hasn't even begun. Like, there's so many other ways.
Like, I just got a new phone, so I got a BlackBerry because I need to do email. I can't use iPhones to do that. Like, why can't I just put in my Facebook ID and have the phone just populate with all of my information for my friends? Like, what happens when Facebook launches the F phone, right? Which is like tight integration with your address book. It works as a phone. It works for email, and it is the best Facebook experience. They sell 5 million units the first day. Okay, $50 a month, $25 a month in service. Okay, that's $10 billion in revenue.
Well, like Facebook Connect, presumably at some point that will have a business model around it.
Potentially.
Payments, I don't know, off Facebook advertise. I mean, there's so many different possibilities, right?
I mean, so I think it's a business that is just beginning. So when they look at, and when Cheryl looks at kind of where do we want to go, doing $100 million, $500 million of business software revenue doesn't move the needle. And when you then say, okay, what's it going to cost for me to get that? It just doesn't register.
Yeah. And what do brands now think of Twitter? Is it sort of experimental now?
I think Twitter is more of a work in progress, but we're starting to figure out two parts of it. One is, with the photo product and with kind of the evolution of the Twitter platform, I think, solving that creative crisis is happening where, you can actually program content around Twitter.
So the creative crisis meaning that 140 characters is not enough for brands to feel like they're...
140 characters isn't enough, but when you look at what you can do with photos and what you can do with kind of the ecosystem, whether it's kind of Twitter, Tumblr integration, Twitter, Facebook integration, you can all of a sudden, put together a scalable presence globally. And then what I'm really excited about with Twitter is also this whole idea of, it's real-time connection. So New York has an earthquake yesterday. Twitter's the place everyone goes. Even if you're not on Twitter, you're getting Twitter information. And so that same real-time connection with kind of your world, I think, is going to happen on the brand side, where it's, Facebook, not everything gets through to the consumer. When you like a page, you may see 10% of the content, and then the brand can pay to reach you through the ads. Twitter, everything gets through. It's a stream of information. I think that immediacy, that kind of direct, instantaneous, kind of many-to-many communication is manifesting itself in promoted tweets, which is a relatively small business right now, but it's working relatively well. And once you play that out, I think Twitter will be a big business. But, it's probably 2 years behind, Facebook in terms of their monetization efforts.
And Tumblr, of course, everyone's talking about how fast they're growing. I guess they haven't even sort of begun to do anything on the monetization side, although I imagine brands are all talking about how do we get on Tumblr. And
I mean, Tumblr is basically blog plus Twitter, and it's like easy way to get content up and out and distributed. I love Tumblr, and I use it personally, michaellazerow.com, just like pictures of my kids, which no one is interested in. But, where that goes as a business, I don't know. If you're a high school student, like you have a Tumblr account. Yeah. Instead of decorating your room, you're
Some
decorating
people are saying
Tumblr.
it might be the new Facebook in a way. Like it's more, allows for more creative expression or so whatever. And
I think it's definitely a new paradigm. And I think that potentially you can argue that Twitter should have evolved there faster with publishing tools. I think Tumblr is much more threatening to a Twitter than a Facebook, because Facebook at the core is identity.
Yeah.
And so I think what we've seen with Google Plus is UI changes will not get people off of Facebook. Okay, so Google Plus launches, everyone's talking about it, and I know no one who's using it, other than 4 or 5 people right now who are in my network. I'm not saying kind of out there and like the audience.
The techie types.
The techies
playing around with it.
Yeah, they're using Quora and all these other kind of products as well, but you wouldn't say that Quora is going to beat Facebook.
If anything, Google Plus feels to me more, at least in its current incarnation, more threatening to Twitter, in that it feels more like a publishing platform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately the reason why Facebook is here forever is the pain associated with trying to get your social graph somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like just our industry. So we live in a very inside the Beltway insular industry, probably the most insular industry outside of Broadway or plastic surgery. I don't know the other ones, but it's awful industry. Like we can all admit that our industry is, we look inside always. And so we think that what we do is normal, but it's not.
Yeah.
And if most of my friends like sell insurance or teach or have jobs outside, and they're not leaving Facebook. And when I asked about Google Plus, it's like, what is that? Is that the new voice product? Like, there's no, and I think like Google has spent its whole existence trying to get people out of their website. You come, you search, you try to, and they just want to make money sending you elsewhere. So all of a sudden you say, okay, stay in our living room, hang out for a while. It's kind of like, no, like it just doesn't feel like a place that you're going to organize your social life. Publishing, maybe. Email is a great publishing platform. It's one-to-one communication. It's a different use case than a Google Plus.